my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. This is your Feel Good Breakfast show on a Thursday morning. We're live, large and in charge, and so good to have your company with us. Now, man's best friend has become a poacher's worst nightmare. Dogs have proven to be a real game changer in the fight against poaching in Africa. Now, those are the words of our next guest, an author who has recently released his 16th novel called Scent of Fear, about the world of tracker dogs and their handlers employed in the war against poaching. And now he's come all the way from Australia to join us here. So please give a warm Expresso and South African welcome to Mr. Tony Parr. He's in the studio. Yes, welcome. So great to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the program.
So good to have you. 16 works so far. That's absolutely amazing.
Yep, no shortage of inspiration in Africa for novels. Yeah.
That's true. That's so true. Let's talk about the inspiration behind this novel and how does one even begin compiling the research for a work of this nature?
Yeah, my wife and I have a house in South Africa. We live on the edge of the Kruger Park, and you can't spend time in that game reserve these days without noticing dogs,
Yes.
working dogs at the gates and on patrol in the park looking for poachers. So that's where the inspiration came from. And to research the novel, I met a real-life dog team working in the Sabi Sands Game Reserve, where they're tracking poachers and doing an excellent job there. And a company called Canine Conservation in South Africa, which trains men and women as dog handlers and trains the dogs themselves. So they all helped with the research.
Yeah. What kind of important role do these dogs play in these teams in the war against poaching?
It's really crucial and importantly, it's very successful. So dogs are now involved in about 90% of all arrests of poachers. And what we're seeing is where dogs are effectively employed, such as in the Kruger Park, the poachers are staying away. So not only are they catching them, they're a deterrent. Now, one of the issues is there's probably not enough dogs and handlers, but there's an international NGO that I met called Canines for Africa that are training men and women to be dog handlers and the dogs, because where dogs are working, they're successful, but the poachers then tend to go somewhere else with rhinos where they don't have as many dogs. So it's an ongoing effort.
And they're finding all kinds of manner of things.
Yeah, they're used to track people, to track the poachers, but they're also used to detect firearms, ammunition. They use Weimaraner dogs, which are good at sniffing out other animals. So they detect rhino horn if a rhino has been taken.
Oh, wow.
So they're looking for arms, ammunition, people, and even the products of the wildlife trade as well, too. So it's a very big job.
Wow. Now, Tony, in my research about you, I read that you served in the military in Afghanistan back in 2002, and we all know that your books are largely set in Africa. Where did this love affair with Africa first begin?
Yeah, I think for my wife and I, like a lot of first-time tourists, we came in 1995. The attraction was the game reserves and the park, but of course there's much more has drawn us into the continent. And as a writer, you know, it's the people that I meet and the landscapes and the things that I draw my inspiration from. Yeah, I served in the Australian Army in a public affairs role in Afghanistan. And look, there is a war being fought today in South Africa to protect the rhinos. And I think we must remember that there's so much good work being done by rangers, by dog handlers, by dogs, police, military people. But one thing I learned in Afghanistan is this war is a little bit like the war against terror. You can't just win it with guns and bullets and dogs. You've got to get into the minds of people on the other side. You can't stop terrorists unless you can stop people joining their causes. So I think if more needs to be done in this fight, it needs to be done internationally, using things like PR and marketing and advertising to try and reduce the demand for things like rhino horn and elephant ivory in those user countries. And that's part of the war as well. And I guess that's where I've drawn on my experience also in this book.
And speaking of getting into the minds of people, let's get into your mind a little bit. If I'm at a bookstore and I pick up Scent of Fear and I take it home, what am I expecting in this novel?
Yeah, well, I think as men and women are involved in this fight, I think if there's males or females who like dogs, they might like this book as well too. Anyone with an interest in wildlife or the bush, I think, might be interested in the book, and maybe to learn a little bit more, not just about the scope of the problem, but as I said before, I think about the good work that's being done in this country. And we must never lose sight of the fact that there are great men and women and dogs putting their lives on the line every day to protect rhinos and other wildlife, and that's what I've tried to get across in this book.
I love that.
I was wondering whether there might be more inspiration that has come your way with regards to Africa and whether there's another novel in the works.
Yeah, there's definitely one in the works right now. I've got another one coming out in August. I'm talking at Exclusive Books Canal Walk in Cape Town tonight about that as well too. So I have to be about a year ahead. So the next book for August is already done, and I'm writing one for 2020, which is about plant smuggling, something completely different. There's an international trade in cycads, in rare plants out of South Africa. This poaching problem never ends. It's big. But again, there is a lot of good work being done to try and stop it as well.
Oh, this is incredible. I'm
there's-
geeking out right now. I cannot wait. You're doing such amazing work.
I was going to say, if there's
Tony.
anything with
It's
silver
really-
lining, it means that we have one of the most beautiful countries and one of the most beautiful
Yeah.
continents
Without
in
a
the world.
doubt.
Yeah.
Without
Well,
a
thank
doubt.
you very much for joining us,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Park.
And thank you for celebrating and highlighting that as well.
It's something
amidst
I
all of
always
the
wanna
bad
get
news,
across.
often it's really, really good to have that.
Let's not lose sight of the good news that's
Yes.
happening as well. Too.
I agree. Well, author Tony Parks' latest novel, Scent of Fear, is available right now from all leading book retailers. So get your hands on the suspenseful wildlife thriller today.
Yeah, and if you'd like a copy, then you're in luck because we have 3 books up for grabs today. All you have to do is SMS the keyword WIN, then include your full name and your city and send that to 33728. And the first 3 names to be randomly drawn will be sent a copy of Scent of Fear. The competition opens and entries will be closing at 12 midday today. Free SMSs do not apply and T's and C's can be found on our website, expressoshow.com. One more time, thank you very much to Mr. Tony Park. Wonderful. Great to have you.